I've run into a problem with my crossbow tickler. Let me explain. Now you'll perhaps remember that this, my crossbow tickler, is made from an old piece of iron railing. Now I've got no forge or any other heat source, so perhaps unwisely I bent this iron by hand. Now it may have looked good on the video, but I severely underestimated the accuracy required to make an effective tickler for a crossbow. In fact, the problem is twofold. One, it's where the tickler engages with the roll nut. This piece is way too thick. And the other thing is a simple error of mine, and that is this spindle hole upon which the whole trigger moves. It's in the wrong place. So even though this works fine on the bench, I've got to modify it quite severely before I can install it in the crossbow. This is the crude outline of the tickler I've made, and note where the spindle hole is. This, however, is much more the shape that it should have been, almost like a bird's head, and notice where the spindle hole is on this one. The problem with my tickler is this piece is too long, and the spindle hole here means that this part has to move upwards into the tiller in order for that to travel downwards. This design, however, is much more efficient, mainly because the spindle hole is there, right at the back. It needs only a small movement of the tickler in order to release the roller nut. The problem now is, how do I do it? But before I carry on, let's just say this. This video and the others before it are by no means an instructional about how to make a crossbow. For heaven's sake, don't copy what I'm doing. For me, this is just a light-hearted challenge to see whether or not I can build from odds and ends and bits of scrap a working crossbow. Let's carry on. There are, of course, grave limitations on what can be done with a piece of iron using a hammer, a grinder and a file. But this is it.
Life is funny and sometimes strange. It seldom turns out the way you think. But if you want some good advice, I can offer this small wink. You'll find that a little goes a long way. A little goes a long way. A little goes a long way for love. A little goes a long way. A little goes a long way. A little goes a long way for love. If you were so lucky as to find someone little goes a long way for love. Yeah, yeah. A little goes a long way for love.
So, here is my scrap bin crossbow. It's not, I agree, very elegant, but it is all made from bits and bobs I found lying around or in the shed. There's only one question remaining now. Does it work? I titled this series of videos Iron, Beech, Elm because they're the three main materials that I used in making this scrap bin crossbow. But of course I did use other materials that I found in the shed. Firstly, the roll nut. This is made from a material called Delrin. It's synthetic, it should really be made from horn or antler, but I'd got none of those materials, so I used this, and I'm glad I did. Because in making this the prototype and this one that fits in the crossbow, I learned a great deal. So when I do make one from horn or antler, I'll know a little bit better what I'm doing. And the string is made from linen thread and fast flight. Again, I learned a great deal in making this. And the next one I make, I'm quite sure will be better. Now the binding here, which is called the bridle, is made from jute 3-ply rope. And it's sealed and secured with boiled linseed oil. So have I learned anything in making my scrap bin crossbow? Well, for sure I have. The main thing I take away from making this is that it's not just a job of bow making. Making the tiller, the roll nut and the tickler all function together is in fact an engineering job. So I'm really glad I've had a go at this, because my next one, I'm sure, will be much better. So is there anything for you to take away from my crossbow project? If there is, it's this. It's not the making of a crossbow. It's that whatever you have, whatever materials you have to hand, whether you want to make a bow or whether you want to make a crossbow, whether you've got a lot of tools or few, whether you've got a big workspace or hardly any, it's worth having a go. So whatever you want to make, a bow, a crossbow, or indeed anything else, just have a go. You'll learn a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.